Yeah. Balasubramaniam. Let us wait for a couple of minutes because the Q1 session ended just about half an hour back. It was 1:45.
Oh, okay.
Let us wait for some time. Then probably start.
Mr. Das Gupta, I can help you change the camera position.
Yes, please do that.
So you have those three dots at the bottom of your screen where you mute the mic.
Yes.
Click on those three dots. More options.
Okay, camera front. Okay, got it. Okay. Yeah, thanks.
Oh.
Yes, kind of showing my rest of my table, not me.
Enable the video first.
Yeah, I'll just take a little time off. I'll switch it on when everybody's in.
Dr. Obi, we can start the session. And Dr. Obi, we can start the session.
Yeah. So, very good afternoon, all of you. Welcome back for the afternoon post session on e-conference on smart factories. Morning, we had an opening session followed by digital technologies and the redefined business strategy and operational execution. Then we had a session on smart investment in game changers as a case study. Now we are going to have the session on smart shifting of business process. To discuss on this, we have three eminent speakers from a different experience lined up for this session to make it very interesting. Today, the world is digital. Everybody knows that digital is pervasive. The digital transformation of our society brings about a hyper-connected world. The yesterday's skills are not enough to survive in today's digital world. Digital is a single reason for the rise and fall of the companies. For example, the statistics shows that just over half of the companies of the Fortune 500 have disappeared since the year 2000, not because of anything, but because they are not embracing the digital smartly. Today, the cost of starting of a business is not so high. It is less than 1% of what it used to be in 2000. But 52% of the businesses have disappeared in the last 15 years. So there is a problem. The problem is in sustaining the business, which is very important in this competitive environment. So process improvement in business is always essential for running the company successfully. But in this competitive world, in this competitive environment, just small improvements are not enough. The improvements should be drastic and transformational. With this shift, we can optimize our business process to a level which we are having only imagination previously. For example, if you take tools like RPA, that is robotic process automation, they can emulate the human execution of a business processes like bill passing, collecting data from email, collecting social media very efficiently, effectively through software robots accurately, efficiently. Further, advances in equipment control, information systems can help establish more flexible and responsive operations, which is very essential for the companies. So this session is meant to explore how such smart manufacturing has potential to wholly transform the manufacturing operations with significant changes. So the smart shifting of business process is a fundamental rethinking of the process. This is focused on the end-to-end alignment and transformation of business functions, process, organization, data, metrics, technology, etc., etc. So digital opens up innovative means to achieve next level of operational excellence. This level of change, what we are getting by embracing this is by nature invasive and will be disruptive. There's no doubt about that. So we touch upon this topic in the morning also to an extent, but to discuss more in depth on this topic, as I have indicated, we are having three speakers. The first speaker for this session is Mr. R.R. Dasgupta, Chief Digital Advisor, Microsoft India Private Limited. He is going to talk on perspectives on future factories, operational visibility, frontline, worker productivity, and process automation. R.R. Dasgupta, fondly known as R.R., taking care of digital advisory services in India in the areas like automotive, mobility, agri, and farm equipment, etc., etc. Typically, RR partners with the business and technology leaders with a business first and technology next framework that shape market marketing management. He works at intersection of intelligent technologies and human ingenuity. He combines design thinking, art, storytelling, and technology to reimagine and execute possibilities for enterprise customers and their consumers across the digital and physical channel as well. In a career spanning over more than 3 decades, He has engaged with the CXOs of global and Indian majors in automotive, farm equipment, manufacturing, mobility, and chemical petroleum in large transformation programs. His recent engagements includes innovative digital experience for auto consumers, connected mobility for an auto major, creating an innovative natural user interface NUI experience for the customers. His specialties include digital transformation, experience innovation, Internet of Things, data and AI platforms, connected mobility platforms that solve real business problems. He is the recipient of coveted Microsoft Platinum Club Circle Excellence Outstanding Achiever Award for his impact on Microsoft customers' digital transformation programs. This is the highest recognition that one aspires for and at Microsoft, and only a few select employees are given this award. That is very important one. He is frequent keynote speaker and panelist at important industry forums and has engaged with the CII, ACMA, Telematics India, Commercial Vehicle Forum and Two-Wheeler Forum, etc., etc. So, aside of work, RR is a digital artist, a storyteller, and an active blogger. So, I am pleased to present Mr. RR to all the participants. Mr. RR, this digital platform is yours. Please go ahead. RR?
Yeah, I'm trying to mute.
Yeah, please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so, yeah, okay. I hope everyone can hear me.
Anybody else can give a feedback?
Yes, sir, we can hear, sir, but we are not able to see your screen.
Sorry?
I think, do you have any screens opened, Mr. RR?
No, I have not. I just checked the voice first.
Yeah. Your
Your voice is fine.
Okay, so I will now share my, I don't know if you can see it. Can you see my screen?
Not it.
So let me know when you can see it.
Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
Oh, it has not yet come.
Okay.
Fine.
Trying to share through the tray.
Yeah,
It is loading now, sir.
it is loading.
Okay. I hope you can see it now.
It is coming up.
It is showing as from my end.
It has not yet come. Yeah, it has come. Productivity in manufacturing.
Okay.
I think we are through.
All right. Okay. Very good. Very good afternoon to all of you, and thank you, CII, for inviting us onto this platform. I think I've been through the morning deliberations, and I think they are very, very relevant at this point in time and the times that we are going through, right? And it kind of funnily happens that I always get selected for the post-noon session. And post-noon sessions on a Saturday afternoon, it's really challenging, and I can see the number of participants haven't yet built up. So I'll try and my best and kind of go forward from where I am, right? So here it is, right? So in terms of, some time back, I think our CEO, Satya Nadella, said about a month back, he was talking to a few analysts and he said, we have seen 2 years of digital transformation in just 2 months. And I'll relate that back into my personal experiences, right? So as a digital advisor, I hardly go to office. Most of the time I'm in customer plants or customer offices, wherever, and in meeting rooms. So for me, especially in a place like Pune, which is an absolute red zone, where I hardly have stepped out of my apartment, forget about my society, it's very challenging, right? Suddenly someone who's very used to a life where, you are always with people, suddenly you are using a very different medium to actually reach out to people. That's a challenge. And I see that happening across my family. And my wife is a school teacher, and she's been asked to now come on Teams and, talk to the parents preparing for the next session when the school opens up. Same as my daughter. So a whole day on Teams, she works as a financial risk advisor with one of the firms. And she's having that experience of not going to office and yet connecting with people outside. So with that context, I would just like to kind of, move to my next slide. I think from the morning we've had enough discussions on smart plant layouts, sensors, IoT, connected devices, connected MES, connected ERP, mixed reality, and so on and so forth. I want to dwell on something which is absolutely can be on the ground, and so I'm using this slide where I'm saying that how can we use commonly available technology uncommonly well? And I refer to one platform, and don't think that because I'm Microsoft, I'm trying to pitch a product called Microsoft Teams. I'm saying so because I'm seeing that all our customer interactions, and I deal with very large transformation projects here in Microsoft, and all of our customer meetings are happening through that. Even people are signing on from manufacturing shop floors to talk to us about the problems they have. And so is it with our colleagues, almost on 9-hour basis, at least every day. So I'm saying that it is impacting a whole lot of organizations. And as much as I would like to go back to our customer premises, the truth is that our customers are not ready to receive us in their premises, and neither will we risk going into premises and being exposed to something like that. But one realization dawns on me is that, I'm so fortunate to be working for an industry that I can literally get 99% of my work done, working from home. It is not so in the manufacturing scenario. And as COVID eases up, and Tamil Nadu, of course, where the place where you are is, way more better off than we have the situation in Maharashtra. And probably we are going down for at least 2 to 4 week more restriction or containment. So what happens to people? So what happens in this situation where you have a couple of people who will ease into the manufacturing shop floor, and the rest will have to be outside the premises? And how do they still collaborate and do things? So I'm going to cite a few examples, right? And this is an example, I would say. I hope you can see my screen. It's on a full screen mode. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So how do you coordinate product line decisions, right? Production line decisions. And this is a screen from Teams. I could get into our Teams if I'm doing a discussion around repairs and estimation, for example. I could have a line of conversation with the people who matter. And then I don't have to be in front of my PC. Today, if things failed, and I don't know if a WebEx platform allows a mobile version, I'm sure it does. I have Teams available to me on mobile, and I can do it equally as well from my mobile. And this is a very, very important thing to consider, that not everybody sits in front of a laptop or a PC or a tablet. Most of us are on mobile. In fact, India, I would say, is a place where it's almost a mobile-only country to a very large extent, especially when it comes to the blue-collar or frontline workers. Things to consider is that when I go into a shop floor situation in many of the companies, how do I see them actually coordinate actions and report incidents or have discussions when their shops are far away from some other place where the supervisor is sitting? And I find that very ingeniously they have formed WhatsApp groups, and so they do rapid calling on WhatsApp, video, and all of that. The question which really alarms me is that what happens to cybersecurity? Because when you use a platform like WhatsApp, any of those conversations can be forwarded outside your perimeter, right? And you could be exposed to external threats. Whereas when we talk about Teams, we talk in the context of an endpoint security and an enterprise level security where it's only contained in that. Is it possible to bring in WhatsApp conversations onto Teams? Absolutely, yes. So imagine a situation where a large part of your frontline is still on WhatsApp, but you bring in those conversations with Teams, and the instructions go in a very secure way. Or you could very quickly create a separate app, which actually helps them to connect to the, right from the foreman to the chairman, that kind of visibility. So this, really enables people to have a contextual, structured, data-driven discussions. Because in my discussion, I could bring up a spreadsheet, I could bring up a PowerPoint, I could even go to a digital whiteboard, drop things, and stuff like that, and it would still be in context. And if you see in the screen, it's a chain of conversations, right? And it just stays there in a very, very secure way. So imagine if a worker were to be not present for 7 days, and he wants to catch up on a certain situation, the entire timeline of conversation, all the files that have been shared, are available to him. He just has to go through. So it makes for very, very rapid onboarding, right? And you can have discussions around financial implications of equipment shutdown or any other incident which has happened on the shop floor. And then, adjusting. And today is a time where, in China, we are seeing that, how shifts are happening. So if there is a COVID incident reported in a certain shift, that shift is through workflows created within Teams, is handed over to the next shift, and the shift which is impacted by COVID actually goes into containment zone or a quarantine area, right? And you can easily do that with already inbuilt calendars and schedules, and where you can see the availability of people on a calendar basis. So it's extremely easy to do that. Point I want to emphasize out here, this is an absolutely available tool which is used across. And if any of the companies here are subscribed to Microsoft 365, they already have Teams. What I wanted to point out is that Teams is just not about video calling, about file sharing, but it can be purposed towards very smart manufacturing, collaboration, information sharing, and insights. And I wanted to bring up this commonly available tool because 8 is an affordable tool which can be afforded even for MSME enterprises, which appear to be the audience that I'm talking to. And then we go on to a situation where, how do you facilitate data-driven decisions? Now, data can be coming up from various sources, and I'm imagining that production-related data in large, small enterprises would be gathered from, let's say, data historians attached to machines, put into spreadsheets, and somebody is looking at those spreadsheets, doing pivot tables, doing what if, and trying to figure out what is right and what is wrong. The beauty of having Power BI, which is a visualization platform already embedded inside, integrated with Teams, I can pull any CSV file, bring it onto this. I can even, bring in geospatial data as to which location this is happening, and I can get a context of, oh, this is this location, and here is the production statistics. Here is where the tolerances are going haywire. So I bring everything in context: geospatial information, my production data information, my past trends of my operational efficiency at this point of time, and whether there are any kind of breaks in there. So it's almost a click away. So we don't have to do any extra effort. I just have to pull that CSV file, or I could even pull a map file. I could pull big data, HD Insight kind of files, or Azure Data Warehouse. I could talk to that, pull in data. Any source, I can actually pull it in. And Power BI has the facility of massaging that into a representable schema that people can see. The next one I want to talk about is around something which talked about, the gentleman from DIC was talking in the morning about visualizing a factory flow, right? Now, through extension of Power Apps, as you can see in this diagram, I have a simple schema of the plant that I'm working. I have my production line. There could be a number of production lines. I could have data points at each of those strategic points coming up to tell me where the problem is actually occurring. So I have a visual connect as to where this is happening, and I can drill down there, and even for supervisors outside the factory, they can view this, and they can provide immediate instructions through, again, they can have a video call immediately, they can have a chat, or they can provide instructions on Teams itself. So it's as easy as that. Power Apps is another platform that we have. It's what we call a low-code, no-code platform. I mean, people like us, like you and me, with a simple few clicks can create a whole workflow and can create a schema. We don't need any programming background to get to this level that you're seeing right now. I'll stop here if you have any questions, or do you want me to go till the end and take questions?
You can go ahead. We will take the questions at the end of your session.
All right. Okay. And then there is a situation of workforce training and skills, right? By the way, most of the training that I do, again, comes to me through Teams. And at Microsoft, we have this practice of at least we do about 30 hours of reskilling every month, and some of these are mandatory training. Most of it is video-led and have tests at the end. So imagine if you have training videos, how easy it is for you to create a certification or skilling path. Chilunga was in the morning alluding to the fact that things will change for what is the level of skills right now and what it will be tomorrow, with AI actually, artificial intelligence taking over a lot of automation and other kinds of tasks. So you will need to necessarily embark upon a program where you actually reskill your workers. So workers will have absolute access to the latest documents. It could be work instructions, it could be manuals, it could be, things like I could embed as to he could look at his holidays available, what's his bonus pay going to look like in the year, how does he apply for a leave, how does he apply for the medical assistance. All of those workflows can be built into one single platform called Teams. And talk about health and safety protocols, right? Now, imagine I'm walking through a shop floor and I see this spillage. And this could be simple things as not spillage, but some dangerous item lying out there. Here you can see on the right-hand side, a spillage has occurred. What I have to do is I have to click a picture. It automatically geotags that location, right? And I could, with my own hand, actually do the annotation and say that, hey, this is in this location. As you can see, this is a spillage. This is sulfur dioxide spillage on the floor, and we need immediate attention. And I just say done. It just goes to the workflow, to the command center or whoever should be watching out for emergency situations, and so that it can be addressed immediately. So safety and protocol, again, is so things like, on the shop floor, if there's a COVID instance, how do you quickly report it? Identify the person who was being afflicted, and then very safely and securely provide the care or quarantine or whatever other actions you need to take. And how do you then trigger up processes to say this entire shift now needs to, workers need to leave that assembly line, and we will replace it with other sets of workers. So all those protocols, standard operating procedures can be built into a workflow and brought it into Teams. So I don't want to get into, so what this is really illustrating to you, you don't need to go to different platforms and different apps to do different things. There is no another app you require for emergency reporting. There is no another app you require to actually collaborate and communicate with each other. There is no another app for you to look at the vital operational statistics or efficiency parameters of your plant operations. So my presentation, I wanted to keep it short because, and I'm almost in the second last, slide. So when you have the sudden shift to remote work, right? How is this going to impact people and teams across your organization? Questions I think organizations, big or small, need to start asking: how is business as usual changing? How are the collaborators? So previously they would have had occasions during tea breaks perhaps to huddle together and discuss about operational issues. They may not have that opportunity any longer because you will have smaller shifts perhaps or shifts in rotation. Which collaboration tools are people using for substituting for in-person? The critical question over here for consideration is, would you allow a WhatsApp kind of a communication medium to be used, especially when it's prone to cybersecurity threats? What is the change happening to a shift in working patterns? I, for one, realize that I'm probably working way longer than I used to when I used to be regularly at work. And the simple notion is very simple. You're at home, so people book a lot of meetings. Some of them you have to be, and sometimes it's pretty inconsiderate that I have a meeting from 9 to 10. People see an empty slot in my calendar, book it from 10 to 12 again. And then somebody books it from 12:15 to 1:30. The big question is, when do I have time for lunch? So these are things which can be caught through the workplace analytics, and I'll give you a flavor of that. Very importantly, are we maintaining external relationships? And the skew that I'm seeing is that in Microsoft, we are perhaps, at least in the group I work in, we're perhaps spending a lot more time on internal meetings than external meetings. Of course, we are preparing for external meetings, but sometimes I think, there is too many of meetings happening. So the big question I think Satya brought up is that if new normal is remote work, is it all good? My view is it is not all good because it has far-reaching implications on the psyche and the morale of people who are used to working in a physical, kind of environment, be with people, have water cooler talks or coffee joint talks, etc., and walking around a physical office, right? That whole feeling suddenly. So what he says that, we built a lot of social capitals because Microsoft today has huge investments in, if you talk about Redmond or India, even India, we have perhaps after Redmond, we have the largest campuses, Hyderabad, Bangalore, and the other satellite offices. We build a lot, what he says, as social capital when we were in physical premises. And today we are burning that social capital. Suddenly, digital becomes the only mode of conversation. But it has long-term impacts, and that's what we want enterprises to think about, that, how do they then quickly transit into a staggered release of people inside the work premises, which is going to be much healthier. So that's external. And how do we foster employee engagement and community? When we are in an office, almost every 4 you bump into your manager, right? And you have a quick chit chat. Today it's not so. And in the inundation of meetings that we have, the question we are raising is, are we, some of us as managers, losing touch, that one-on-one touch with employees whom we work with day in and day out? And that's very important for building the social quotient and creating that team spirit, which suddenly seems to be eroding because of this all but nothing digital work that we do. Our employees staying connected. So we have various means. We have fun things that we do here. We will have these virtual coffee meetings where people will just cook something and lay it in their homes, and we'll spend half an hour with each other apart from business. So there are things like that happening. There are surveys which are floating around almost every week to say, how are you? What are you feeling right now? A poll which says, describe in one what you're feeling right now, right? We have 24/7, places, what we call Microsoft Cares. And the mental fatigue could be very, very huge in these kind of circumstances. So we can actually reach out for professional help incognito, which means we don't need to reveal who we are. The person, the specialist on the other hand, gets to hear out our problems, diagnose it, and kind of tells us a way forward. So these are the kind of things which are happening. And I don't know, without the remote means this would have otherwise happened. So take a look at this, right? This is from the dashboard of workplace analytics. So you're seeing that there's a percentage change in, business as usual. How are the hours per week in collaboration changing? How are we maintaining external relationships? Is it going down or going up? How are we fostering employee engagement and community? And you know where the statistics are coming from? every time, so right now I'm on, so right now it won't be tracked, but from my calendar it will be tracked because my calendar is booked for this session. Outlook knows that I've been meeting, I've been in an external meeting from the 10 o'clock in the morning. If I touch PowerPoint, which I'm touching right now, it will be recognizing whether I'm presenting for how much time, what was the tonality of the presentation, what was the topic. For example, at Teams meetings, when I do a presentation and I'm speaking, because we come from different parts of the world, today, if you turn annotation on during speaking, it will automatically type out below the screen what you're saying, right? So I wish I could do that in WebEx. So in fact, if nobody's understanding my, kind of pronunciation, that would make life very simple. It's like subtitles in movies, a regional movie which you see with English subtitles. And it does pretty accurately well on that, right? Things like that, right? So my analytics, which I get every week, tells me, last week I was surprised. It told me that out of my meeting hours of 18 throughout the week, I was parallelly doing emails for 4 hours. How does it recognize that? Because I'm operating Outlook. I'm also attending meetings. So anything which I touch in the Microsoft property, we have something called the Microsoft Graph, which actually captures all my actions. Now, this is not about policing, but it's about, then it comes to me with a recommendation that you need to build more focus hours, RR. You have too many back-to-back meetings, create 20-minute windows, pre-book 20-minute windows every day from the, and do that. So I've come to the end. Thank you very much. I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. R.R. Dasgupta, for the brief but a nice session where you have explained about the Microsoft team in depth, how a floorman to chairman can be benefited out of this collaborative tool. You indicated the power of Power BI and Power Apps also. Thank you for that. Thank you for joining us. Do you have any questions in your chat box, Mr. R.R.?
I'm just trying to look at that. One sec. Sorry, I'll stop sharing.
Vinod here. So possibly we can take the questions at the end.
Okay, then it's okay, fine.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. R.R.
Okay, thank you. I'll stay on till the end if there are any questions.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for joining us. On behalf of CII, I thank you once again for sharing your thoughts.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the second session is by Mr. B.R. Umashankar, Senior General Manager, Robert Bosch Engineering and Business Solutions Limited. Mr. Umashankar takes care of human resources services for a part of the Asia Pacific region that includes India, ASEAN, Australia, and New Zealand. He is responsible to ensure the smooth functioning of these existing services and for rolling in services to the other countries from a hub in India. The human resources portfolio includes the administration of all the employees' data, end-to-end recruitment services, managing deputations of associates to other countries, organizational management, onboarding of new associates, training management of existing associates, and payroll, statutory complaints, etc., etc. That is a huge role. Umashankar has 13 years of diverse experience in manufacturing, quality assurance, software quality, engineering process consulting, e-learning, and implementation of SAP HCM solutions, etc. He has also had a small stint where he worked as a business process re-engineering consultant to reputed companies like Tata Chemicals, Standard Chartered Bank, etc. in India and overseas as well. He holds a degree in mechanical engineering, MBA from Bangalore University in marketing, and also an alumni of IIM Bangalore, where he completed the EGMP program in 2012. An avid sports person, he loves to read and share knowledge. Mr. Umashankar is going to discuss with us on business process automation. Ideate before you take up the leap. With a small introduction, I request Umashankar to take it forward. Mr. Umashankar, please take care.
Thank you, Dr. Balasubramaniam. Vinod, I'm unable to share my screen. Is there something for that?
I've just given you the access, sir.
Okay, great. So then I'll share my screen. Just let me know when you can see my screen.
It has come up. Please go ahead.
Great. Yeah.
Sir, sorry to interrupt, sir. There is a gray patch in the right-hand side of the. I think you have to show you the presentation alone.
Okay, fine. I'll minimize. This is basically your WebEx.
Correct.
Yeah, Umashankar, we have 20 minutes for your presentation, and we will have a QA at the end of the whole session. Okay?
I'll finish it before that.
Yeah.
So, good afternoon, everybody. My topic is business process automation. Ideate before you take the leap. And basically, this is coming purely out of experiences of having done a lot of work on all the processes that was outlined by Dr. Balasubramaniam in my profile. Since I take care of human resources, there are a lot of these business processes that we need to kind of make it more effective and efficient and reduce the amount of effort so that, the bottom line of the companies that we serve are beefed up. So before we actually go into the presentation, I brief on the company that I work for. This is Robert Bosch. One second. Yeah, this is the agenda that I have for today. Show you a brief on the Bosch business, both in India and abroad. And then I take
Sir, Vinod, sir, sorry to interrupt. That gray box is still visible. If you can minimize it, it will help.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. So, brief on planning of automation activities and how the experiences that we have gained in implementation and subsequent review, because these are the three main aspects when you look at process automations. And then, of course, Q&A, but then we take the Q&A even at the end of the session. So that's fine with me. So Bosch globally, we have 78.5 billion turnover, 410,000 employees. And in India, we have 215 billion INR turnover with more than 32,000 employees, of which we have close to 15,000 plus as development engineers. And if you see, also 18 manufacturing plants. So we have a huge sort of playground within the Bosch community here to try and do a lot of our work in terms of smart manufacturing and Industry 4.0, connected sensors, software, etc. So while I am in the human resource services, I actually started my career on special purpose machines. So I can talk about a little bit of both. But right now, I focus simply on the business processes that I am responsible for. Bosch in India has 9 companies, of which I belong to the Robert Bosch Engineering and Business Solutions Private Limited. There are so many other companies. Bosch Limited, I'm sure most of you know about the spark plugs, but that's the main consumer-facing product, as well as the Bosch washing machines and dishwashers, etc., which is done by our company called Bosch Siemens Household Appliances or Home Appliances. RBI, the company that I work for, basically is called a lot of those development engineers that you saw on the first slide belong to this entity called Robert Bosch Engineering and Business Solutions Limited, which is we have an acronym called RBI. As you can see, we work in the domains of automotive, manufacturing, healthcare, agriculture, smart living, smart cities, and things like that. So, for example, the solar panels that were set up in the Bangalore airport and Cochin airport physically were turnkey operations done by Bosch Limited. RBI has plenty of development centers worldwide, one in Poland, one in Mexico, one in Vietnam, and one in Bangalore. In India, we have one in Bangalore and a huge setup in Coimbatore also. I'm sure we know both. Let's come back to the topic of planning of automation activities, or the topic of ideation before you take the leap. I go back to a quote from Abraham Lincoln, which was also tweeted by Stephen Covey and is also part of his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, where he says, this is an Abraham Lincoln quote, where he says, if you were to give me time to chop down a tree, I'd spend the first hour sharpening the axe. Basically, you need to have the right tools before you actually set out to do the work. And this, in this context, is basically all about planning your automation activities. The first and fundamental thing about implementing automation activities is to plan. And in planning, or as we call it, ideation, you need to take into consideration quite a few things. And these are the ones that I'm going to touch in my presentation going forward. So the first one is about identifying the processes. Very interesting, very important. It's not possible that you can automate or plan to automate all the business processes. You need to then look at biting off whatever you can chew. And as a result, you need to make sure you have a specific list of processes which you can then work on. And in identification of processes, you need to look at the following factors. And this is basically not the entire list, but just to give you a flavor and a sample. What is the impact of the process? What is the potential for an automation and as a result, what would be the savings that would be encountered if I have to do an automation of the process? The other thing that you also need to look at is it possible to automate anything, or do I need to look at only some parts of the process that I have to look at? Just to give you an example, let's take the recruitment process. Now, all of us, I'm sure, are very familiar with the recruitment activity. It starts with a cold calls, probably from some company, recruiter calls, and then you're busy in the office. You basically say, I'm sorry, I can't take the call now. And then after you put the phone down, he'll try a couple of more times. And then suddenly one day you'll realize, oh, somebody like this is calling me, and then you call him back, and so on and so forth. And then starts the process where you go in and then get your resume updated and send it across, and then there's a negotiation for a date when you can come for an interview or a telephonic interview as it is now. And the whole process till the end is onboarding. Now this is what I call as an end-to-end process. Now what would you try and automate? Would you automate the entire end-to-end process, or would you like to look at pieces of the process which we call a sub-process or tasks which you can then automate? So this is a very fundamental aspect as part which goes into the planning, because costs as well as efforts and savings are all directly proportional to the end-to-end process or the sub-processes. Sometimes breaking it down into smaller processes and then automating may be far more valuable than the other way around. So these are some things which you need to focus on. Selecting of the processes is the next step. And how do you select the processes? For this, you need to establish some criteria. And what are these criteria that we look at? For example, are these processes repetitive? What is the volume that is there in terms of these activities or processes? Will it give me volume benefits? How much variations? Are all the same, repeatable in the same manner, or are there variations which I also need to focus on? Are these rule-based? Because if it's rule-based, then it's easy to automate. If it's not rule-based and if it's subjective, then those become very difficult for you to automate. The next part of the planning is also to estimate the return on investment. And this was something that was also talked in the morning by Mr. Pereira from Daimler. What kind of investment will you make in automation, and what kind of savings do you expect? What is the payback period for the money that you invest? It's just like investing into another machine and asking yourself, when will I get my break even? So automation planning is also something similar. You're investing money in terms of software, effort, development, etc., etc. And in return, you get some savings in terms of the manual effort, or in terms of the increased compliance, or in terms of errors which are reduced, and so on and so forth. So you need to estimate the return on investment on all these. Finally, you decide on a list of processes that you need to then focus on as part of your automation activity. So when we talk about ideating, and then we say that this is the most important aspect, this is similar to the first hour being spent in sharpening the axe. I would say even more than 1 hour. In addition to this, there are other things that we also can try out is something to do, especially in the digital world today, is you can simulate whatever you plan to do and then see if you can get, get a picture of what kind of benefits you will get before you actually go ahead and develop and deploy the same. The next step comes in terms of implementation, but before that, I can just show you an example of what we did in terms of creating a value contribution model. We identified all our business processes in terms of the HR activity, HR processes, and then said, okay, which are the ones that we need to focus on? Where are the low-hanging fruits? Which are the ones that can give us the biggest benefits? And what basis or what criteria do we use? And see, here we use the criteria in terms of variations versus whether it's manual and repetitive. So the ones on the right-hand side means they are large manual effort and repetitive. And if on the y-axis, if it's on the lower side, it basically means that the variations are low and these are good candidates for automation. Coming to implementation, there are lots of factors that one needs to focus on. For example, whether you will make your own automation tool or you will buy something off the shelf, or you do something, you buy something and then will you customize it. So there are again different kinds of tools that are used. My next speaker is from UiPath. There are other tools, Blue Prism, Automation Anywhere, plenty of such tools, which is the one that you will choose. The other things that you need to do in terms of implementation is what is the impact of the changes? Will it make life easier for the people while it saves a lot of effort, or will it also have issues? Will the implementation also have issues in terms of people not using the tools? What is the maintenance and support? What happens if there is a change? How do you make changes to the things that you plan to automate? What if the process changes? What if the tools change? How do you then ensure that whatever you have developed does not go waste? What are the frequency of the changes? So all these, though you may say this is part of implementation, or it could also say it's part of planning, but ideally these are the questions that are raised more so at the fag end of the planning just before the implementation. In any case, if there is any impact to whatever you have assumed and made, you need to then look at recalculating your return on investment. Any changes that you make in terms of assumptions at the time of planning must be redone at the time of implementation if there are any changes to any assumptions that you have made at that point. The next step is to actually review what has been implemented. It so happens, at least this has been my experience, that we have planned certain volume, we have planned certain benefits in terms of effort, and then the actuals may be different. Sometimes it's vastly different, sometimes it's slightly different. In any case, it's always important to look at what is the actuals versus the plan. And again, during the time of implementation, you may come across some issues because of a lot of reasons, access rights, issues with respect to certain rules and procedures that you might have. And again, these might have a change in the assumptions that you have made at the time of automation. And so here again, at the time after implementation, you need to relook again at all your assumptions and recalculate your return on investment. This is how we've been doing in Bosch, and ideally we have looked at it from a perspective of focusing purely based on the return on investment that we get for all these kinds of effort that we put into automation. Just to give you an example of something that could be very easily related to by most people. We take care of recruitment of all the laterals across Bosch in India. And this is roughly about 3,000 people per annum, or about 250 on an average per month. Now, if you say you have a funnel that you select 2 people out of every 100 resumes that you get, your efficiency is just 2%. And if you believe that if you have to recruit 250 people, then you need to basically screen resumes multiplied by 50 times. So the volume is huge. Now, do we do it manually? Do we do it with automation? Manually is just an effort that you'll have to spend so much of manual effort. Rather than that, we have decided we'll go into some kind of automation to screen resumes. The next step is, again, now once you have identified or shortlisted resumes, then you need to call people up and find out if they are willing to take up the offer of attending an interview from Bosch. It's quite possible that you may find it difficult to reach out to people, because typically when you call somebody during working hours, it so happens that that person might be busy, and even if he's free, he may not like to talk to a recruiter, because there are other people in his organization within earshot. So he or she might say, I'm sorry, but I can't take your call now. So what we have done is we have then partnered with a startup in Bangalore as part of our DNA Next, which is a philosophy to identify startup accelerators. And we've decided that we will use a tool which will simultaneously call about 100 people, and using an interactive voice response will gauge whether that person is interested to appear for an interview or not, and then also solicit a time which would be convenient for a recruiter to talk to him. So that way we have saved a lot of effort from the recruiters, basically trying to be on the phone, calling up and not getting a response at the other end. So just to give you some quick examples of what is it that we have done on the automation front. And purely all these basically start, like as Stephen Covey says, with the end in mind in terms of the plan and in the execution. So with this, I complete my presentation. And if there are any questions, I will take it now or later, and I'll leave it to the moderator.
We will take the questions at the end of the only one more session is there. We'll take it after that.
Sure. Okay. Then I can stop sharing my presentation.
Yeah, please. Thank you, Mr. Umashankar, for giving an opportunity to know in depth on the automation planning process, which is very essential for the success of any automation. Normally, people used to say, if you plan well, then we can assume that 50% project is completed. That's what you said. So you have decided how to identify the low-hanging fruits, implementation, review in terms of ROI, etc., which is very useful in the HR process. Thank you so much. We are going to have the third and last presentation on this session. It is by Mr. Tejas Venkatesh from UiPath. We all know UiPath is synonymous with RPA. Mr. Tejas Venkatesh is a robotic process automation evangelist and a practitioner with over half a decade experience in implementing various RPA technologies in India and APAC countries. He has an experience in pre-sales, business analytics, and implementation as well. He has played a key role in growing a strong UiPath team in India. Tejas helps in enabling UiPath customers and partners in India and APAC region in ensuring quality deliverables. He promotes automation first in enterprises, but also in NGOs and universities. Tejas acts as a bridge between product and user community and is known for presenting compelling live demos. With this brief intro, I request Tejas to proceed with your presentation. Tejas, the digital platform is yours.
Sure, thank you. Namaste everyone, hope you're all safe. Thanks so much for staying until this late on a Saturday afternoon. Certainly a reflection of your commitment to digital transformation and also making your company a better place to work. Let me start sharing my screen. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are very much audible.
Great.
Yes, we got your screen.
Cool. Before I start presenting, I also want to put a quick timer so that it's easy.
I was about to tell, but you have already started. Thank you so much.
No problem. Great. So what I want to do today is to try and help you to demystify a couple of these terminologies. I'm sure you know and have started digital transformation, digital journey in your organizations. I want to help you identify and plan, as Umashankar was trying to help us, to plan the next business process automation in your organization starting Monday. But before that, I still want to talk about another jargon per se, is hyper automation. Gartner says that this is one of the top technology trends, strategic trends for this particular year. And I will come back to this particular slide in a bit, but taking the first step towards RPA and demystifying RPA. While we speak that RPA is booming, emerging, and it is getting its wings all across the globe, not only in Americas, but not only in EMEA traditionally, but Asia has also been adopting RPA in a very large extent, and it is across segments, it is across markets, it's across geographies. Something which merely started in around 2015-16. Until then, automation existed, but not in the form of RPA, maybe, which was about $250 million business in 2016, is growing at a staggering 63% CAGR, right? And Forrester last year predicted that it is about $3 billion market, only the product, not talking about services. The RPA product market would be about $3 billion, but I think we have outgrown that predictions. But what makes this RPA as a technology or a business process automation space so interesting is the pace at which you can do things, right? Automation existed, programming existed, integrations existed, software integrations existed, BPMs existed, but what RPA is trying to do is trying to help you achieve the return on investment, right, much quicker, because your implementation time, identifying what to automate, to actually automating, and to find the returns on what you have invested is much quicker, typically 6 to 8 weeks if it's a medium to simple complex automations. Going another step ahead, just before we all realize robotic process automation is just a software robot and not our Endiran or Shah Rukh Khan's, what does it look like? So it's a cute little robot that you see on the screen, right? Probably will not be able to see a software robot. It's a program that sits on your existing infrastructure. It's a non-invasive technology, right? It sits on your existing desktop and automates the tasks the way you do it, right? It emulates your actions. It mimics your actions, right? What it does very beautifully is it executes your business rules as you have taught it. It can click a screen, it can copy, it can paste the data across applications, across your enterprise applications, across your web applications, across your custom-built applications seamlessly. That's what it does, right? It is an existing, it's a software product, it's a software program residing on your existing infrastructure, no new infrastructure required to execute this. It uses the graphical user interface that the humans are already using, hence you need not build new interfaces, no new infrastructure. Assume that this is like a Google self-drive car, where you have the same, almost the same car, you are not changing the road, you're not changing the infrastructure. Instead of a human driving the car, a robot is driving the car, right? That's what is RPA for you. And what it could do, it could typically lower your operational cost. Some of the study says it is up to 30%, but even if it reduces the operational time of every process in your organization, whether you are an HR, whether you are a CIO, whether you are a senior software engineer in this system, even if you reduce 20% of your operational time, that's a lot of benefit that we are talking about. So RPA is used in those places where you have beautiful business processes which are repetitive in nature, and the robots are trained on those processes step by step, just like how you do for a new employee in your organization. What are the things that a robot can do? It can log on to your application, it can move files and folders, it can extract data from your PDFs, it can open your emails, sort your emails, it can read and write into databases, etc., 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 right? Of course, this is a very different crowd where I'm sure a lot of people do a lot of different tasks. but I am sure all of us open our computers every morning with so many emails on our Outlook. What a robot can do is go onto your Outlook, sort your emails, read some of it, give you a snapshot of what's happening and what are the important tasks that you need to do. Even before I go on to the next things, I want to quickly show you how it looks. It's as intuitive and as easy as this. I hope you see my screen now. It's like a flow chart. As you write a process flow, you can list a couple of activities, you log on to an activity, define your rules one by one. And if I want to build something quickly and show you, right? What I want to do is to tell you how simple applications look. Let me close this. Yeah, you see a demo application, right? So what would you do ideally in while you're interacting with an application? You open an application, you type, you click. We have predefined activities. I'm talking about RPA in general, though you see UiPath Studio. Most of the matured RPA tools comes with these drag and drop capabilities. So if I want to type something, you pick an activity, drag and drop, and you tell the robot that I want to type on this particular text box, right? And there you go. It captures it. I want to type Tejas, right? I can also record the set of activities. I can just say record. The moment I click, it understands it's a text box, and it gives me a wizard. And I type my password. That's it. And I also click the login button. So what I'm trying to do is I'm essentially trying to train the model or my robot, the activities that I need to do, and I build the business processes like this, right? It is applicable in finance, it is applicable in HR, it is applicable in IT, it is applicable in marketing. Wherever there is repetitive processes that you do, you could automate that, right? How am I doing on time? I have half of my session left. So what you could do is that you could put your questions, comments, thoughts on the QA window, and I keep looking at it, and if there is anything that I can cover immediately, I will cover that. Going to the way it actually looks. There are ideally two types of robots when we are in RPA space. One is the robot which you execute independently without any human intervention in the place. It can be scheduled. For example, I want to see a report of all employees. I want to see a report of how many virtual machines are being used every week. Every Friday at 4 o'clock, I want to see a report, right? So you can create a robot, as I told you, via a Studio simple interface. You create that and you schedule it to run every Friday 4 p.m. and then it does the job in the background and sends an email to you once it is ready. That's one type of robot that we call as unattended robot, because it does not need any intervention per se. The other type of robot is the attended robot, which actually sits alongside you on the same machine, right? And you can trigger the robot whenever you want a task to be done. For example, you want to you are in a front office officer, and you need to give information to some of the customers based on a call or an email. You don't know when that email comes, right? So you trigger the automation whenever you need it, right? Ad hoc. And it can be a hybrid where it is running independently in the background and it finds an exception. For example, it is doing an invoice processing and it's a scanned PDF and the quality was not that great, and the robot doesn't have confidence if the data that it has captured is good or not. In such case, it can come back to you, the human user, and then it can ask for help, guide me with this particular step, right? That's a hybrid model where the software robots can be in the background or it can be on your current desktop and trigger it ad hoc, right? Any questions? Let me open my window. I don't see anything. Cool. The next obvious thing is to talk about security. There's so many things that we can talk about RPA, but I thought this is important to speak about the security aspects of RPA. It is extremely secure. The communication happens internally, and every data that you store is encrypted. We have both cloud offering and on-prem offering, and a lot of these components are Veracode certified. I just wanted to take NASA as an example because that's an existing customer of ours, which went through a very rigorous process of onboarding this new software into their operations. Right? What are the things that can be automated in various segments in your organization? Finance happened to be one of the start point. Every organization starts with RPA because the rules, the processes are much structured and more rule-based, right? So your entire procure to pay, whether it is AP, order to cash, you could automate it. We have several thousands of use cases across the world. Your supply chain within the organization, it could be HR. Every month you send money to your employees. Maybe you could automate those parts, and of course the self-services in IT and customer services within the organizations could be automated. If you remember this slide, I did speak about hyperautomation being the #1 top 10 strategic trend for this year by Gartner. These are the technologies that involve in hyperautomation. It involves AI, the artificial intelligence, it involves machine learning, it involves analytics, it involves native integrations, it involves process mining. But the interesting thing is that RPA, it actually fits as the center of gravity for all these things. So in hyperautomation, RPA becomes the core, the platform, and all these other technologies are complementing and supplementing RPA to create more efficiency, to have your end-to-end processes automated. Everything that I told you in the last 12, 13 minutes was oversimplified, but just to give you a sense of what can be automated. But now RPA is more holistic, starting from planning what to be automated to building how quickly the automation and pushing it onto executing it on multiple machines, and also realizing the RPA ROI much quickly with measuring and scientifically discovering what to automate. That's where we start with, right? That's the hyper automation technology trend that Gartner has identified to be the #1 technology trend for this year, and RPA is at the foundation of it. So where would you start your journey? You could do it two ways. One is the top-down approach, where you as a CIO, CTO would call for an automation program across your organizations, and you could scientifically discover what to automate, right? You decide from top down saying, I want to automate 25 processes, but which 25 processes? We have process mining, another subset of hyperautomation, which scientifically discovers by connecting to multiple IT systems in the background, looks into logs, looks into variations. It gives you a picture of exactly what's happening in your process, and it can give you that visualization, the variations, the exceptions, and the happy flows. Then it can also suggest what is the process that you could automate. That's being the first way of identifying what to automate. The second one could be a bottom-up approach, where you bring in ideas from your employees themselves, right? You can collect the ideas, like if I am an AP clerk, right? What is that I want to automate on a daily basis? Because maybe particular invoice sorting, invoice classification, or a specific type of things I know it is extremely repetitive and there is a pattern and I want that to be automated, right? Something that I hate and I want that to be automated, that I'm not going to miss, that I'm not doing it anymore. So that's a bottom-up approach where you let your SMEs on the floor to decide what to be automated, and you can pipeline that using Automation Hub. The other thing is that once, if you are in a journey where you have already automated some things, we also have a couple of options of looking at performance of existing automations using a tool called Insights, which gives you dashboards and analytics of what's happening, how much is the performance, and how much is the utilization of your current robots and processes, and thereby creating more automation opportunities as a feedback loop in what to automate. So I would request all of you to go back Monday morning and start thinking what is that you want to automate, and I'm sure you will find a lot of it. Let me check on time again. I have a minute, so I want to just quickly brief you about this organization. If you don't know, I belong to UiPath, a leader in this particular space. We are also too young, too new, but we have been able to get to the farther end on that graph, leaders graph, both in Forrester's Wave and Gartner Magic Quadrant. We are very well, we are a Romanian company having hearts and souls here in India. We have partners all across India and customers all across India. That's it. That's me, Tejas Venkatesh. I would like to take some questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Tejas, for a nice presentation. Any questions?
Participants can ask their questions in the Q&A box.
Yeah.
I think there was a question.
I see some of the questions actually. It might be. One that is extremely interesting is it looks like RPA might create a threat to employment. How to mitigate this? It's an extremely good question, Satyanarayan. But I want to assure you that it's part of the technology trends. It's part of Industry 4.0. In the 18th century, when factories started to come up, I think we all had the same apprehension that robots or the factories or the machines would take away our jobs, but something extremely different happened, right? So it would improve our efficiency, thereby giving us more time to do more customer-facing roles. Something which is very close to all of us, which we would have witnessed, is the digitization in banks in India, right? So we thought 10 years ago, maybe once computers starts to hit banks, we might have less number of jobs in banks, but something extremely different happened. We started having more and more branches because banks could now focus on customer-centric activities. The moment you focus more on customer-centric activities, when you improve your customer services, because robots are going to do things much faster and more accurately, so your experience as a customer is going to increase. That is going to obviously increase your business, and thereby giving more opportunities to you to expand business, and it creates actually more jobs, according to me. And that's what a lot of people across analysts would also believe. Do we require a standard format for apply to RPA, or it can also work on unstructured data as biorobots? I don't know about biorobots. I think biorobots kind of sounds a little scary, but yes, unstructured data, semi-structured data can be understood by the robots. Some of these skills are embedded from the RPA companies. Like for example, in UiPath, we have something called as document understanding, but some of the skills can be embedded externally via an NLP model, other machine learning models. It's much easy to integrate with existing technologies as well, right? Let's say we need to start RPA. Can you explain how works? I think there are two questions. Praveen, if you can please expand your question, because it says, let's say we need to start RPA, and then I don't see the question. The next is, can you explain how WhatsApp can be integrated? I guess that question is to RR. RR, would you want to take that? I am assuming Keshav's question is to you. If not, I can also pick if it is RPA. Keshav, if you can please confirm if that question is for me or for RR.
I'll just say that, I think you misunderstood what I said. WhatsApp cannot be integrated with Microsoft Teams. It's not in the interest. But what I can do is I can bring in the conversation streams into Teams through a workflow, and then respond to those inside a gated app, right? So it's always better to construct a gated app rather than trying to integrate Microsoft with WhatsApp. Then the whole I would say the integrity is lost. I hope I've answered your question.
I have another question for Ravi. Do you have any technical person in class to drive RPA, or with softwares like UiPath and Experiment? Okay, so Ravi, that's a good question. If you need technical person in-house to drive RPA. As I told you, if you have a bottom-up approach where you're starting off with a very limited scope of work, you could certainly get your hands on. We have a specific product called a Studio X, which is actually an Excel-based tool. You do not need any programming knowledge to start with. We also have academies, and this is what I'm saying is true for other RPA platforms, mature RPA platforms as well, where you have academy, where you can learn how to build stuff, and you also have open forums. We call it as community.uipath.com or academy.uipath.com, where you learn free of cost and also get your free software tool to try it out. And then if you want to increase the scope at an enterprise level, you can leverage a partner or have a technical analyst or a solution architect to help you with it more rigorously. As a partner to UiPath, provide an ROI template. Again, we have insights as a component that can certainly help you identify your operational metrics, both at a process level and at a robot level. So it's out of the box now. It's available in 20.0. I think those were my questions. Over to Balasubramaniam, sir.
Thank you, JJS, for your lively presentation on RPA, quoting your product UI. Of course, the challenge for most of the CEOs is showing the ROI for any IT project. But you have explained it well, how it can be easily achieved, saving lot of the organization as well. Thank you so much. So on behalf of CII, I thank all the speakers, Mr. R.R. Dasgupta from Microsoft, and Mr. B.R. Umashankar from Bosch, Mr. Jajas Venkatesh, finally he gave you a path. You once again, I thank you for sharing your thoughts on how the business as usually is changing. So this is digital conference. It is a long day for us, for every one of us. Of course, it went on well. Since it's a digital conference, we parallelly digital library, digital exhibition, everything. We were trying to emulate the exhibition and physical library as well. On behalf of CII and participants and speakers, I thank CII, the sponsors for this whole event. On behalf of every one of us, let us thank the participants who huge numbers to motivate us. All these conferences are done through the website called CII Hive. I hope everyone will come through that site for accessing this presentation, everything. So you would have noticed digital exhibitions are available, so stalls are available. So maybe Hitachi stall is available, digital stall is available. I request everyone of you to go through that to get more information about Hitachi. And yeah, delegates, like physical delegate kits, it is available in digital format in the digital library. You download those kits from the digital library. The login for the CII Hive will be open for another 30 days, so you can download it at your free time. I once again thank all the speakers, sponsors, and the CII Secretariat for giving the opportunity for all the speakers and the delegates for a wonderful platform to share a lot of things on the digital side. Thank you once again. From CII, anybody wants to give a concluding points, anything? You know?
So like we are complete. So like so thank you everybody for your participation, sir. Like we said, we request all participants. Sir, like we request all participants to access the digital materials. It's an interesting digital platform, and the experience will be good. We request all of them to have a visit to the platform and access the material.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Charles. Thank you very much. Let us join once again in another platform in the near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinod. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. You are in the background directing every one of us. Yeah, thank you.